Uzi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Seems like Wall Street likes Tesla a little bit more. I saw JP Morgan, BlackRock, State Street bought for last quarter, so it makes me happy to see. Are you in a
Well,
cash out?
those are passive management funds, right? BlackRock owns iShares, Straight Street has its own ETFs. So when people buy those ETFs, which is like usually people from their paycheck sometimes add, they automatically buy.
I assume JP Morgan doesn't have one though, so maybe one silver lining.
Yeah, and BlackRock also has active funds as well. So we don't really know which funds they bought. They usually do monthly statement releases. So we may find out. But I mean, do you care if BlackRock buys more?
No, I'm all for it. I mean, I saw Tesla's Boomer Mama post that about like 50% now is institutional, with a negative connotation. Um, I was buying at 170, and I think most of the people still listening now were buying at that point. So we've baked in gains. So I'm just anxious about dollar cost averaging up. I don't want to do that too much, but I bought a couple the other day.
Gotcha. About Tesla, how are you?
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing well. Doing well. Beautiful day. What's new with the FSD release? So it's going out to more cars, right?
Yes, as I expected, there was a pretty big wave last night. So we are up to about 8% of the fleet in the US and Canada. And that's of the entire fleet, not just Hardware 3, but if you count all cars. If you just look at the eligible cars, that will be a much higher percentage. But it's going well. I expect it will continue. So hopefully there will be more waves in the upcoming days. So one of our cars has Hardware 3 in it. So I'm anxiously waiting for it. We have a trip next week, so I would love to have it by then. So hopefully more people will get it over the weekend.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by US and Canada versus eligible cars?
Okay, so if you look at TSLA data and look at the percentages they post, that's the percentage of the entire fleet, which is about half, a little bit more than half is the US and Canada, but it also includes other countries like Europe, some Asians, and not much China, but I don't think they track China at all. But the rest of Asia might be included and so forth. So when I look at the stats, since FSD is only available in the US and Canada, I exclude other countries and calculate the percentage based on that. So with that in mind, it's around 8%, although TSLA would show a little bit lower than that, just as I mentioned, as I explained. Now, but that's the total number of cars reporting to TSLA with all hardware versions. Hardware 3 is about 3/4 of the fleet right now. So if you account for that would be a much higher, even higher percentage than 8%. Will be more than 10% of the eligible cars.
And then I see. Okay, so Hardware 4 and Hardware 3 add up to about 90% of the fleet, US and Canada.
Hardware, yeah, it's probably maybe even more than 90%. But as you correctly pointed out some time ago, it's that data set might be skewed toward older cars, just because TSLA probably was more popular among early adopters, and then it may not be representative as far as the proportion of the Hardware 3 versus Hardware 4 in the real fleet. So if you look at just TSLA data, it's about 80% would be Hardware 3. But in reality, it's probably closer to 75% or something.
Okay, so 8% of the fleet in US and Canada, and maybe about 10, 11, 12% of the eligible fleet. Is that fair to say then?
Yes, but keep in mind that eligible would, in that case, would include all cars with the proper hardware, whether they subscribe to FSD or not. So if you count only subscribers, which we don't know the exact proportion, obviously, but that would be an even higher percentage if you count eligible cars, only those that actually subscribe. And I'm guessing that right now this version is going pretty much exclusively to those who subscribe to FSD. I don't think it's going to other cars that are not using FSD at the moment. Eventually, it will probably be included in the mainstream version, but for now, that is separate.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for clarifying.
No problem.
Yep.
I will have to step out just to let you know.
Okay, thank you. Hustletown, how is the audio on YouTube?
Audio is good so far. I just turned it down
Okay,
so I didn't
perfect.
have the echo. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Uzi, when are we doing our one-on-one? Did you get a chance to? I guess it's going to be 4 of us, hopefully.
Who's the
Did you get a
fourth?
chance to? Well, you, Alexander, me, and maybe Omar.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. I mean, I've been playing around with some projections, talking to the Humanoid Hub. The more I think about it, the more the software part is more of the question than the hardware. So, I mean, I could have projections, just my confidence in them is not that high because like there's a couple parts with the software that you can't really foresee until then Tesla makes it more apparent. Or it's not even Tesla; it's like Grok integration and the teleoperation. I don't know the progress with that, but I'm down. Saturday, Sunday.
You want to do this weekend? That works for me. Alexander?
Yeah, sure. Can I get a list of questions so I don't like keep fire in a non-native language?
Sorry, what was the reason for getting a list of questions?
Well, obviously English is not my native language, so if I'm not prepared, I'm just gonna be like mumbling a lot, I guess.
It's okay. It's okay. I think there are reasons why I shouldn't share list of questions. You know, like I want it to be authentic in the moment. I don't want prepared answers, and I want people to kind of think through real time the questions I ask. But you know, the topic is going to be Optimus, and specifically forecasting Optimus sales and profits, etc. So, I mean, you have that. You know, you'll be fine. Your English is just fine. Don't worry about it. Luce. Hold on, Alexander. Do you want to do Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday is good for me. Yeah, so my time is I'm 8 hours ahead of you, so take that into consideration, I guess.
Yeah, sounds good. Maybe we can do Sunday morning or something Eastern time, and afternoon or evening your time, something along those lines. Okay, Lucia.
Hello, everybody. Have you heard anything about Elon's new compensation package or the status of his current one? Because it's been months that I haven't heard any news.
Yeah, it's been a while. You're right. We haven't really talked about it. I haven't heard anything. Anyone on the board?
I'm looking for the post I saw, but I think the higher court judge in Delaware said that the lawyers should not receive funds of the $6 billion. But let me look for the correct source.
Okay. Let's see. So we covered FSD. We're gonna do a one-on-one, or I guess 4 of us hopefully on Sunday. Edward, how are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. My son got the 12 new release on the 12.5.1.5, I guess. He got that last night. He did a couple test drives, and he FaceTimed me while he was doing it. Perfect, no intervention thing. But I try to get him to come on today to see if he wants to come on. I don't know if he has an X account or not, but I try to get him to come on to your thing so he can talk to you about his experience with it.
Well, maybe you can give us a preview. How does he like it?
He loves it. I mean, he says that it's got some, I would say the fixes that it has to have are like all the parking lot fixes that he was talking about, like the fine tuning things, like it's not pulling right up to the lights perfectly. And so he says he thinks it's about 2 years out for the robo-taxi being fully functional. And he did make a good point that I didn't really think about that you might find interesting, is he thinks that they're going to roll it out super gradually, that they're not just going to slam out like 5 million cars out there and say, here you go, here's the robo-taxi network. He thinks that they're going to gradually roll it out in a smooth way so there's no safety issues for the public. I mean, not like city per city necessarily, but just a very slow rollout.
I mean, that makes sense to me. Uzi, what do you think? Since you're the official forecaster now.
I did not get to hear that. I just found the link, posted the thing on the compensation package.
Okay, so Edward's son says he tried FSD 12. He likes it. He believes it's about a couple of years out, robotaxis, and he believes that it's going to be a gradual, slow rollout across the country, as opposed to one software update and 5 million cars turn robotaxi.
I think it depends on how Tesla goes about it, right? Like with the fleet, are they producing their own? And then you could forecast it by just taking their current production and then saying like 15% or 10% of those would be robotaxis. But for the other conception
Was that your dog?
That was my stomach.
Man, grab something to eat.
I can't eat on the speaker board, Yuman. No.
Oh yeah, that's true. All right.
No, yeah, I'm getting some food. But yeah, if Tesla makes it like the robotaxi form is everyone's car can become a robotaxi, then it could be faster. But if it's an in-house fleet, then you just take production and then take like a fixed ratio of that.
Edward?
Yeah, my son seemed to think that basically the issue is the security, meaning if something happens and somebody gets hurt or injured, it's going to be Tesla just can't have that on their books when it comes to that robotaxi. They spent too many years developing this, and he thinks that if they do that and something happens right away, that it's gonna be a major problem versus if they gradually roll it out and get everybody used to it. It's kind of, he said it compared it to Apple. He said once you get into that ecosystem, and he's laying out the same plan as that Steve Jobs did with Apple, basically trying to emulate that, get everybody involved in the ecosystem a little bit at a time, and then hit them with that $20,000 car and robotaxi, and that's just going to turn the tides at that point.
Dallas, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with this timeline. I mean, I think 2 years is reasonable. We've talked about this a lot, but since version 12, we're seeing a major increase in reliability and performance and what we call overall human feel. I mean, we're really getting there. I think they're going to go kind of a Waymo approach with deployment. Some cities like Austin, maybe Dallas, hopefully. I don't know, beta test cities. I don't see them doing it on customer-owned vehicles until those beta cities have proven their worth, but definitely excited. The next 2 years are going to be really fun.
Edward, I can argue the other side on this. There's one major reason why it can be the other way, which is that's what Elon said was going to happen. Remember? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm on your side on it a little bit. He just made a good point, but I still think it. Elon said that it's the biggest change in economic value in history. Now, he wouldn't say that and then launch like 5 cars in one city somewhere. That doesn't make sense to me personally if he's going to claim that it's going to make the biggest step change in financial history at one, basically when he flips the switch. So, I mean, I'm kind of on that side, on your side. I'm just saying it's a possibility for safety now that what happened to Cruz, it's not like Elon wasn't seeing that and them getting Cruz getting stripped and getting in trouble and all that because the passenger or the guy got hurt, you know.
You know, it's so funny because Hustletown is both here and on YouTube, and he's sharing his opinion on YouTube live chat, even though he's on the speaker board. Yeah, Hustletown, would you like to repeat what you said there?
It's kind of weird being on both, but I think I'm fond of it now. I really prefer being on both. But what I said was there'll be like a restaurant has a soft opening for friends and family, and then they gradually open it up to the public. That's what it'll be like on the app. So more and more customers that are, the beta testers, and then they'll be able to extend it to friends and family, and then the ride hail will come, and the next thing you know, it'll be expanding. I think it'll be all over multiple cities. It'll just be very few select people that'll be able to use it in the app.
Uzi, no hands mode, guys, no hands mode.
I think the point with the pilot cities is probably the most likely scenario. You just look at Waymo and the regulatory, autonomy 5, level 5 autonomy. Um, you know, I think the regulatory picture will sort of guide where robotaxis appear at first. But on the larger scale of things, you get to progress FSD further. That becomes a question of which states will be allowed first. And that's hard for me to even project out. But I think at the end of the day, you'll have these areas just like Waymo is sort of providing the infrastructure for FSD development. It's going to be in Texas, in California, and probably Arizona. These are arid locations with less variability with weather.
Alexander, how about you? What do you think?
Well, I when it comes to FSD, I have a hard time projecting because obviously I haven't ridden it. We haven't gotten it in Europe. But the slow rollout makes sense. Obviously, you can't just like push the button and all of a sudden everybody gets access. That would be crazy.
Crazy because of safety reasons or something else?
No, because they haven't tested it they need to like gradually test it, obviously. Or
Well,
else
they are testing it right now. They are testing it right now in a supervised fashion.
Yeah, sure. But if you're gonna have like a robotaxi network and hailing it, it's kind of a different story, isn't it?
Dallas.
I think a valid question to ask is, do you think the first vehicles on the robotaxi fleet will be customer owned or Tesla owned? I've been thinking about that a lot, and I tend to think they'll be Tesla owned vehicles.
Agree.
Luce. Okay, no hands mode, no hands mode. Luce, go ahead.
Do you think that we are going to get a demo on the robotaxi reveal date, or it's just going to be showcasing a car and nothing else?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, they might do a demo, who knows? But like, does it really matter? Because in 2019, they did, a demo rides as well with the analysts in 2019 Autonomy Day, and it didn't really change anything. What really matters is what happens at the volume level. Tesla-owned fleet versus customer cars. Dallas, why do you think it's going to be the Tesla-owned fleet first?
I'd take that down to limiting variability, and they can control more aspects of the testing. I'm sure there's going to be some level of supervision, maybe in a remote setting with people in cubes watching the cars like Waymo. I just tend to think they're going to try to control every aspect of the testing as much as possible.
I'd like to see what Omar had mentioned earlier, the first robotaxi in the tunnel of Vegas. Like, I think that's very doable.
I think the robotaxi fleet will also have higher margins if it's owned by Tesla, whereas if it's ride sharing, you'll have to split profits.
I think it might be a driver assisted or supervised FSD ride at first for the first few months until they, kind of grind out any issues that they may have.
Well, I don't think it's a good idea to give away robotaxi network to owners so they can add their cars. As a shareholder, I would rather that Tesla would take all the profit for themselves.
Agreed.
That's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. I mean, they're definitely most of the cars are already out there. They don't have 5 million cars just sitting around waiting for robotaxi. It's going to take them years just to develop that actual manufacturing and fleet. So that makes zero sense. They're absolutely going to put, like, 100% in my mind, they're going to put the cars out that are already out there on the road.
I think he was saying to start.
No, he was saying in general that they don't even need to have people having their own cars on the network, and that Tesla will just be making all the money. Tesla's going to make a killing off of all those cars on the road. So that doesn't make any sense to just wait for all their cars to eventually get built.
Yeah, but they buy back the cars, right? So if you want to trade in your car, they can keep it and then put it on the robotaxi network. No need to give away money for free.
Luce, no hands mode. But you still have to unmute yourself. Okay. Can you guys hear Luce? Is it just me?
Nope.
Ah, sorry,
Okay.
I didn't. So basically, no hands mods means you just speak up. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So I think that FSD will be ready later than when when the Cybercab will be ready to be produced in high quantity. If hardware 5 arrives at the end of 2025, and we say that FSD is ready in 2-3 years, then basically there is going to be Cybercab on the road as soon as FSD is getting ready.
Yeah. Man, there's so many different variables in building this business. It is such an interesting topic. So many variables and so many directions they can go with. And the combinations and the permutations is just unbelievable to me. And I'm really curious to see how they're going to go about it. I wish we could predict it, but we've been talking about this topic for years. And look at that. I mean, we have a handful of people on the board, and everybody has a different opinion about how they're going to go about it still.
Yaman, do you think we see unsupervised by the end of the year, like Elon had said was possible?
No, I think it's going to take years. And for the reasons, I mean, I shared this on my Patreon too. If you track the pace of progress, I think FSD can do, like, if you allow it, it's able to do 99% of the miles, especially in San Francisco, LA, Austin, etc. But you still need to go 99.9999% accuracy, and that's going to take orders of magnitude more compute, which is going to take billions, if not tens of billions of dollars to build, unless if there's a breakthrough in how much data you need to learn to improve. And that's a 0-1 kind of thing, I think. So we'll see. I mean, I hope it happens earlier, but I think it will take years. Robert, you posted a video recently a post with a bunch of videos. Would you like to tell us about your experience?
Hey, sure. Hey, Yaman. Yeah, this is a repeatable disengagement scenario I call the Queens Boulevard Challenge here in Queens, New York City. I've been tracking this scenario for a couple of years now, but I only started recording it and showing it here on X with 12.3.6, which I had installed on my 2022 Hardware 3 Model Y about 128 days ago. So I posted 3 short video clips of navigating from a 3-lane main road over to a 1-lane service road with an additional bike lane. This has failed every time I've tried it, except one attempt where there was a lead car. So the 3 videos show a couple of different attempts. And so the TLDR is there's been no real improvement compared to 12.3.6 with respect to this particular scenario, and actually had a regression. It did something that 12.3.6 had not done before. And when the camera was off and I wasn't recording, I had to disengage twice because it was approaching a red light really quickly, a lot quicker than I've ever seen it done before, and I did not think it was going to stop. Didn't want to take a chance, and so I hit the brakes. So a bit disappointing. I'm going to test it out some more, obviously, during the daylight hours and see how it behaves.
What about the rest of the drive?
Yeah, so the rest of the drive, basically after I tried these scenarios, I navigated back home, and that's when I had to brake twice at 2 different red lights that it was very aggressively approaching and did not seem like it was going to stop. There was another case where I was passing by a police precinct on the way home also last night, and there was a police car with its lights flashing, and at the very last minute, it slammed on the brakes, which it didn't really need to do. The car was on the police vehicle was on the opposite side of the road, but on a 2-way road, but somehow maybe it thought that it needed to pay attention to it and stop. So I had never seen that behavior before either.
Yeah, I pinned at the top of our screens Robert's videos. If you want to check it out, he tests and publishes very short, insightful clips. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate you sharing. Robert, what do you think about the discussion that was going on earlier? Do you think Tesla will start out with its own fleet of cars, robotaxis, or push it out to customer cars first?
I think they'll push it out to customer cars first and try to capture that immediately, because it's going to take quite a while before they can ramp up and deploy, their own cars, and probably in small pockets. Most likely California first, especially. Definitely California first. I think is going to be the first place, if not in the U.S., then somewhere overseas in China, in my opinion. And then later on, once they ramp up enough of these robotaxi cars, and then I think they'll deploy to that using a mixed hybrid model between owner-owned cars and their own fleet.
Edward, there you go. Uzi?
I just wanted to add on the production question. I mean, we're kind of in the dark till 10:10, and there's a lot of speculation about obviously the Cybercab is more confirmed, but then the Cybervan, the low cost vehicle, and then Optimus. So over the next 5 years, you have like 4 new products that you want to manufacture at scale. So how do they prioritize that? I don't know, but it's better than being demand constrained.
How many do you think they need to produce? Let's say if you were making the decision today, how many cars would you plan for in the next 5 years?
Robotaxi vehicles or cybercabs?
Yeah, robotaxi.
I think it would be like a fixed ratio, right? So it's like you just take the production, and then slap on like 10%, 15% onto that. So whatever that number would be, I just think the ratio is the real question. How much do you want to prioritize out of what you're doing now? Unless you expand capacity.
Luce?
So lately, I'm obsessed by two things. So the first one is the FSD tracker. Like I'm absolutely obsessed by it, and there is not yet enough data on the last releases, unfortunately. And the second thing is the Elon Musk compensation package, for the simple reason that I think basically that he mostly lies, and I think that when there is the compensation package on the line is when he basically he speaks the truth. So it's very unfortunate, this situation with the compensation package and the fact that we basically don't have answers on the timelines because of that.
Yeah, Luce, we're focused on robotaxi stuff right now. This is the second time you're bringing up compensation package. It's irrelevant right now. Do you want to say anything on the topic at hand?
Yeah, well, on the compensation package, there is going to be when FSD is going to be rolled out unsupervised. So it's the best timeline we can get. It's the most important thing we can have right now is the new compensation package, and basically the best estimate ever.
Okay, do you have anything to say on robotaxis?
Yeah, robotaxis, facts.
Okay. Chase, welcome. Can you guys hear Chase as a speaker? Okay. Let's see if I can make this work.
Chase is actually my son, and he hasn't used it, so he tried to request to speak for you.
No, I got it. I got it. Since you're the only person following him, I figured that was the case. Okay, I sent him an invite to speak. Sometimes that works better than requesting to speak. So let's see if he can accept the invite to speak I sent to him, and then he can tell us about his FSD experience. Chase,
Hello,
welcome. How are you?
now?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, perfect. So what exactly was the topic question? Sorry, I just want to make sure. I was trying to set everything up. I've never used X before as a platform, so.
Well, welcome. Are you sitting next to your dad?
No, I'm actually in Florida right now, so.
Well, we're getting some echo. Can you do something about that? Do you have AirPods or headphones?
I can get them. Hold on.
Okay, perfect. Edwards, how do you feel about having your son on the speaker board?
Well, it's fine. He's an adult now, so I don't tell him what to do anymore. What I tell him is that I'm not here to tell him what he should like or dislike. I'm here to help him get it.
Okay, great. So when he gets his AirPods,
All right, is this better?
Yeah, much better, Chase. Thank you. Can you tell us maybe a little about your experience?
So I have recently just got my Tesla. I want to say about a week and a bit ago. So like 10 days now, I've been kind of testing it. I got FSD the second day I was able to get the vehicle, and it's been a really, really good experience. At first, I had to kind of get adjusted and get used to just kind of how the whole system works and get back into that. I've been in an FSD vehicle for a long, long time. I think it's been 4 years now since we've been kind of sitting in the FSD vehicles, testing them out, and just seeing how it runs, how it operates. And it runs pretty smoothly. And I've seen the progression, it get consistently better all the time, which is kind of rare for a lot of different things to consistently get better, especially in a depreciating asset like a vehicle normally would be. So to see the progression to now, I just got 12.5 yesterday, and testing it out, it was really, really good. I could definitely see improvements. Definitely not having the nag constantly have to bother you whenever you drive is very convenient. It's very nice, and it's only going to get better as time progresses. I think it's made really far strides and improvements, and I think it's only going to continue to get better, and Tesla is going to keep widening the gap compared to other companies in this technology.
Thank you very much. How long have you had your car?
I've had my car for now 10 days. I've been in Tesla since 2019. So, but for me personally, owning the car, I've had it for 10 days. I've driven so far 500 miles in those 10 days.
What did you own before?
I had a little 1997 Nissan Sentra, very, very old car. So it was a big, big upgrade in comparison. So
That's really awesome, man. Congratulations. That's really,
you.
really cool. 1997 Nissan. Wow.
Yeah,
That
it
is
was a
wild.
very
Yeah.
old car. It got me from point A to point B. I can't complain, obviously. You got to be grateful for what you have, but to be able to get an upgraded vehicle, obviously one of the safest tested vehicles ever, is definitely a massive improvement. And it's just more convenient for a lot of different things. It has a lot of benefits. So
Did you use your dad's referral code?
no, because it was a used car.
Oh, I see. Okay. Got you. All right, cool, man. Well, you're welcome to join us every now and then and share your experience as you learn about your Tesla. And this is really cool because Edward brought, now this is the third family member, not right, Edward?
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, my wife checks on when she can, but she's usually working during your spaces, so she can't really do anything most of the time. But in general, when she's available, she listens to it, and she listens to it on when it's done sometimes too, like when you on replay and everything like that.
Yeah, that is really cool. Yeah, that's very humbling. Chase, what else have you, what were the top 3 reasons why you selected this car?
For me, one of the big reasons why I was sold on this car, obviously, for safety reasons. I've been in several accidents, and it's not a surprise why those accidents happened. They were all kind of minor, less than 10 miles an hour, but I believe that all of those definitely could have been prevented if I was in this vehicle at an earlier point in time. So I definitely think the safety rating and it being one of the highest rated vehicles ever tested is a super, super huge benefit and makes it so that it's an easy change to switch into. I think the next thing that really, really sold me is the technology. The first time I ever sat in this car, especially as a 19-year-old person, like a young person in the generation who started to grow up seeing the massive evolution in technology, being able to sit in the vehicle and see what it could do was just a marvel when I first got to sit in it and see it, and it's only gotten better since. And that's what I think Tesla really has a wide gap compared to all the other companies, is that their software and their data and all of that is just so much better than other companies as of right now. I think other companies can potentially catch up, but I think Tesla just has all of them beat as of now. And then the third reason, it's just a fun car. Like the acceleration, being able to go quickly from 0 to 60, to be able to go in and out of traffic, to be able to navigate very smoothly, very easy. It's just a fun drive. Like out of every car that I've ever driven, it's definitely been the most fun to drive this, and especially because now I get to be able to call it my own car. It's been really, really awesome. So I would definitely say that those are the 3 reasons that I personally love the car.
That's awesome. I'm going to get Uzi's points and I'm going to go back to Chase for the 3 negatives. Like what we
Sure.
want different after that.
I got a question for Chase. You mentioned you're 19 in your 20s. I assume you're in college. So what do the college kids think of FSD so far?
So I have my roommate who's been my best friend for a couple of years. I've taken him on a test drive, and he was skeptical at first, as most people are when you get into something like this. And he was asking questions like, well, what if it gets into an accident, or what if it does this? And I was just trying to give my best takes to answer it. But he really seemed to enjoy it, and he's more of a progressive thinker than most people are. So he definitely could see the real benefits, but I think the main thing is people aren't seeing these benefits firsthand. And once it gets into more people's hands, it's just going to keep snowballing and allow for more people to sit and actually see how revolutionary and how amazing this technology is. And they're seeing it when it's been more refined and not even at its early stages, to where I've seen it progressed so far. So that's just such a really cool insight to be able to see. But I think so far a lot of people have really liked it. Obviously, I think it's kind of 50-50 for the most part. People like it, people don't like it. So
Thank you. Okay, 3 things that you don't like about it so far, or what you wish it was different.
3 things I don't like about it. So I think for me personally, I don't have home charging. I don't have an ability to charge it at home. My Tesla right now gets about 230 miles of range. I drive it for my job. I do DoorDash on the side just so I can make some money. And for me, I'm always having to charge it a lot, just because I drive it constantly and I'm not used to having to worry about the range of the vehicle in comparison to gas because it just takes longer at this stage in time to be able to charge the vehicles. So I think if they can improve their range and be able to have them able to have a longer period of time and make it better for people who don't have home charging, you're going to be able to break into that market of people better. I would say the second thing that I'm not the biggest fan of that, like I said, was now recently fixed was the nag of FSD. And that nag was constantly bothering for me. I have a wheel cover on my steering wheel, so it kind of affects that wheel cover. Sometimes it disengages from autopilot whenever I click the wheel a little bit too harshly. Um, so I was never the biggest fan of that. And when I was driving 12.5 yesterday, that was by far the nicest change to not have that lag of constantly having to click the steering wheel and keep making sure that, oh, it's you're there even though you're concentrating on the road. So that's a super huge improvement. And then the final thing that's kind of tough because I haven't really noticed anything else outside of that. I think for at least FSD wise, I think there are some points where it just doesn't understand the nuances of certain spots. Whenever you get into parking lots, whenever you get into certain little spots that human drivers just instinctively know because we've been driving cars for a longer period of time, we just know the little nuances of, oh, you might want to pull to the side over here, or oh, you might want to. For me, yesterday, I was sitting driving it and it wouldn't pull up to the sensor light line for the light to be able to activate. So I had to slightly scoot the car forwards. And it's just little things like that that I think need to be improved before this is a rollable method, especially for the robo taxi network, and to be able to have all of that work perfectly and to be able to be an optimal system. So those are the 3
Okay,
things I would say I'm
awesome.
not the biggest fan of.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming up here, and I hope that you come more often going forward as well. Did you purchase or did you subscribe to FSD? Did it come with the car?
No, the car did not come with FSD, unfortunately. Originally, we didn't get it with FSD, and I was just going to be okay with that because I was like, well, I'm still getting a new car. I can't complain. But then I was just looking at the FSD a little bit more, and it being a subscribe feature where you can pay 99 a month for, I started doing the math for it, and basically, I would have to have it for 80 months before it wouldn't be worth the price cost for me just to buy it straight outright. For me, I'm probably not going to own this vehicle for more than 80 months. So at that point in time, I might get FSD and buy it outright. But until then, I didn't see a need. So to be able to just subscribe to the feature was such a huge advantage point. And I think that was very smart of Tesla to do because, again, it allows more access for people to get into FSD and to try it out and to realize how good the system is because not everyone has $8,000 to be able just to add a feature to a car. And especially at the time when it wasn't as promised of a feature as it is now, I think the subscribe feature was definitely a big advantage point for it.
Okay, cool. What was I going to say? I was going to ask you one more thing about FSD. Oh, what percent of your miles are on FSD? Do you see yourself driving mostly on FSD? 99%, 90%? Also, what city, if you don't mind sharing, Edward, also if that's okay with you, what city are you?
I'm based in the Orlando area. So for me, since having FSD, I would say probably 90% of my drives are FSD. Obviously, I take it off whenever I get to my destination or I'm getting close to my destination. Usually, I just click it off. But sometimes I just like driving the vehicle just because, like I said, it's a really fun vehicle to drive. But for the most part, I really like the FSD because I'm able to concentrate more on the road. And I just feel that it's safer because I've even noticed like I'm able just to see more of the road because I'm not having to pay attention to, oh, what's going on here or what's happening right in front of me. I'm able to open my scope of what I'm able to see. So I can even notice if I'm a little closer to curbs or a little closer to other vehicles. So that's definitely a huge, huge benefit. But I would say 85% of my driving is on FSD driving.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what other cars did you consider when you were going for that?
Honestly, I really wasn't considering anything else. I've been really, really sold on Teslas as a whole for a very, very long time. And this was the car I've wanted to get into for such a long time. Like I said, because of the three aspects that I mentioned earlier, the technology, the driving features, and the safety of it. I really wasn't sold on anything else. I was trying to get just anything at the time, but once I realized that this was a possibility for me to get into this car, it wasn't a question. I was just when was it going to happen?
That's awesome. Man, you're not making it's like Omar's on the board right now. Like some of the things that you said are exactly verbatim what he says. Like, you like driving the car, that's why you're not using FSD, etc. sometimes. Edward?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Chase, how much do you think I've convinced you on Tesla, or do you think you've made more of your own judgment on it just based on us having the cars and stuff like that?
I think I've definitely made my own judgments. You've definitely sold me on certain features, like the safety features. Obviously, me as a 19-year-old, I didn't care or at the time I was like 16, 15 when we got these vehicles. Um, Originally, that wasn't like my big like selling point. It was like, oh, whoa. My big selling point originally was again just the tech in the cars. That was easily my biggest selling point. But I try to make all of my own judgments and all of my own decisions on these different things. I don't like to just be super biased into one aspect. I can definitely see where there are faults in this vehicle and where it can improve and where it can get better. And once it does, they're just going to completely destroy the market because they're so much more ahead of everyone else. So they just need to take advantage and capitalize on the gap that they have right now in order to really, really take advantage and just destroy the market and really change the world.
Alex?
I see Grant in the crowd here. Did you hear that, Grant? Did you hear it?
No, I didn't. Chase, so are you going to college right now?
Yes, I am.
Where are you studying?
I'm studying music theater. I love to perform, and I've done performance for a long time.
That's really cool. That's really cool, man. Okay. Any other questions? Chase, there's a question that applies for you. It says, do you have easy access to a supercharger?
Yes, for me, I have a supercharger. I'm very fortunate where I have one less than like 400 feet from my house. So that's very, very convenient. But even if not around the Orlando area, there's a bunch of superchargers. I have a V4 supercharger that's, I believe, like 4 miles away from my house. So it's very, very convenient. But I definitely don't even rely on the V4 supercharger just because it doesn't amperage to my car as well as it could. So I definitely think that that could be an improvement, but I have very easy access to supercharging, so it's a very nice benefit.
Okay, really good. Uzi?
What's the perception of Elon amongst your peers?
I think the perception of Elon amongst my peers is a lot of people do see him as a genius of our time. And then obviously you have the other end of the spectrum that see him as this crazed, deranged lunatic that has no idea what he's doing. But I think for people who can actually see kind of what's going on, it's a no-brainer that he is one of the pioneers of this generation and is going to be written in history books. And that's just such a cool idea to think about, at least for me, that we're living in a time where people like Elon, like Steve Jobs, like Jeff Bezos, people that have developed these insane things that have changed generations, that we're living amongst them, is just such a really, really cool thought.
Dallas?
Hey, Chase, I was curious, since you supercharge solely for your charging solution for your car, do you go at off-peak times where, like, on the app it shows when it's most expensive? Do you go in around cost of charging times?
So for me, what I've noticed with charging is that I've just had a base rate every single time that I've charged of 39 cents per kilowatt hour. I've never had it change in the app, or never had it changed or be different. So that would be something that I would like to do more often. But as far as I'm aware, at least the chargers around me are all just flat rate 39 kilowatt hours, or 39 cents per kilowatt hour.
Okay, very good. Any other questions for Chase? Please request to speak. Very good, Chase. Thank you very much. This is great information.
No problem.
Great
Absolutely.
information. Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, especially I really like when you said I didn't even consider any other. Like, I knew this was just a matter of time. That's really cool. Edward, do you have a YouTube channel, right? What do you cover usually on your channel?
Yeah, I used to use it a lot and do a lot of investing. What do you call it? Technical analysis. My dad taught me technical analysis in high school, and so I kind of carried that along. And so I started a technical analysis channel, and then I noticed Tesla breaking out and going profitable, and I kind of was like all geared on Tesla and was a little less on the day trading and swing trading and stuff like that. And so I just didn't see the point of spending so much time and effort on the channel and everything. You can see the past videos, and I did some robotaxi breakdowns and stuff like that. But just general knowledge, trying to give knowledge to the public, really.
How often do you publish?
I don't really do anything on it now. Like, I haven't honestly done anything in years on that channel, because I mean, I'm not trading every day, so I'm not, following the market as detailed as I did back then. I'm still following it every day, but now I just don't really care what happens. I'm just waiting for 10 million Optimus bots, and then I'll start selling some shares down the road.
You didn't want to put any content up on Cybertruck?
Not really. I mean, I love the truck, and it would be fun to do that. It's more about the time than the money. I mean, I'm not trying to really do things for money as much as I'm just trying to manage my own time, and I've got so much going on that I just barely have the time to do anything.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, cool. Really, really cool. Speaking of Cybertruck, production rate seems to be increasing. I think the Tesla target is 2,000 per week by year end, which is great. We see parking lots and parking lots of Cybertrucks. I see it around. I get pictures from my friends all the time. Is anyone else on the board other than Edward have a Cybertruck? Dallas, I thought maybe you would have one, or Hustle.
Do you guys have any questions about the Cybertruck? Because we've been driving it for months now, and we pretty much know the truck inside and out now.
We're still on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know the Cybertruck is the best EV flat, but the Model X was my dream car. I've always wanted that, so we went with the Model X. But a Cybertruck, I definitely am envious.
Edward, how has been the range? That was an issue with people when it first came out. A lot of people were expecting 500-mile range. Has it been an issue for you?
No issue. We run it at 80% because it's a nickel battery, obviously. So you don't charge it to full. And if you did, it would take forever because it's going to trickle charge for so long. But it's 320, and we literally maxed it one time to 100% because I wanted to test it. So it was like 321. and so that's very accurate. And the range is great. I don't see any issues with that type of range. I mean, unless you're really running over that amount of miles per day. If on some type of job thing, I can see that being a problem. But for 90% of the people buying the trucks that they have, they don't need more than that type of range. I mean, Tesla's figured all that out. They know that how much range people need. You don't just want to throw in extra batteries just to add the cost.
Do you think you're going to be using it for towing or hauling stuff?
That's funny you mention it, because my wife has just kind of gone down a rabbit hole of, hey, when she retires, she wants to travel the country, take the Cybertruck and tow a 7,000-pound RV behind us and maybe travel around the country and visit everybody that we know and stuff like that. So it's definitely on our radar for that. And I just told her we can't go more than that for range, because if we have towing 10,000, now we're only going to get like 100 miles of range or 120 or whatever per charging station. So we wanted to keep it under like 6,000 or 7,000 pounds, so we can get at least 150 before we have to stop and charge.
Omar, welcome. How are you? Do you think you're going to be using your Cybertruck for hauling and towing? Have you ever towed a large kind of RV kind of thing? Well, it's never too late to start. You know, maybe you can join Edward in his. Oh, come on. So, what did she do?
Tomato.
Yeah. Edward, are you going to race your Tesla with Chase's Tesla and put it on your YouTube?
I would lose.
Well, with that attitude, of course.
Well, I think it's not really fair. Chase has been in all the vehicles. I think he's been in pretty much every Tesla that I can think of. He actually did a presentation on the Cybertruck, so he's pretty familiar with the truck and the features. Because when we went to the Touch a Truck event in North Carolina, he did a presentation and everything, and he showed everybody that got in the vehicle all day long all the features and everything. So I don't know his exact impressions of it. He just loves the music.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much. So, for those of you who are just joining, in the first hour, we had Chase Porter, who is the son of Edward Porter, come up and give us an overview of his new Tesla. He just got a new Tesla. He's had about 10 days. He's an FSD subscriber. He told us about his top 3 things that he likes about it, top 3 things that he doesn't like about it. He wishes that were different. Omar, you're gonna like this one. Chase says 90% of his miles are on FSD, and the only reason why it's not more is because he likes driving it, just like you said. And then he also says not having the nag on FSD is a huge step up for his experience.
we're gonna blow past 2 billion miles, and I think the take rate's going to increase. So Wall Street has started paying attention to this. They're starting to realize autonomy's here. We have driverless services. This is no longer a fantasy. This is something worth paying serious attention to. And that hour and 40-minute drive, Waymo can't do that. They don't go to the area where I started, and they don't go to Pasadena. So I drove through a Waymo service area, but the start and the end point were not within it. And then they can't drive on the highway. So you have to do everything on city streets right now in the public version. So it's really not recognized how Tesla, their system is more advanced than anything else on the market. What other car can you buy that can go do an hour and 40 minutes in LA traffic? You don't have to touch a thing using just cameras. There's nothing else out there. So I think investors, as this becomes available, are going to take a look at this and say, wow, even these hardware 3 cars are performing so good that they'll probably be able to figure out how to get these to be above human safety.
Tracy, you have to unmute yourself for us to hear.
Yeah, going off of what he said, I completely agree. Definitely having it be no nag is until you experience it, you simply just don't know. But it was significantly better. It was just such a dominant change, and I had to worry about it all the time, about touching the wheel, making sure that everything was right, and making sure that the car wasn't going to do anything funny. But with it just being able to, it gives you the warning on screen, you just look straight ahead and it's gone, it's such a changing feature. And like I said, until you experience it, truly like no other.
Dallas.
I agree. I think it's a game changer, but it really feels like I think Omar once said the term gun to the head or something. I agree. I mean, if you look at all at the screen, even at the map, it's just screaming at you. So I also wear sunglasses most of the time. So I'm curious when these issues will be remedied.
I mean, essentially to get NHTSA to approve it, they had to be pretty strict. It's not going to get more strict from here. It's only going to get better. So they're eventually going to remove these restrictions. I see them, maybe turning off, first of all, decreasing the strictness of the nag, turning it off maybe in highway traffic jams, then going to higher speed city streets. So the days of the nag are numbered, but the thing about this new attention-based nag is if you're using FSD correctly, you'll never see it because it's on the screen, right? So if you're looking at the road and not the screen, then you'll never see it. And I agree, it is kind of annoying. Like yesterday, I was driving home and I was blasting some music. I was singing along, getting into it, and the thing starts beeping at me. And I'm like, huh? It's like you can't get too into it. You have, sometimes I'm just like opening my eyes wide, staring at the road, really trying to let it see, that I'm looking at the road so it stops flashing and beeping at me. So I agree, it's annoying.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe Elon or the Tesla team that was watching you drive wasn't too happy about your singing potentially.
Well, then why'd they ship me a karaoke mic?
That's pretty funny. Are you going to film yourself and while singing and post it?
No, that's why the videos have no audio, because I'm singing in the background. I should just publish it with the singing.
Yeah, you should. How is your singing voice?
Well, the views on the videos would probably go down.
I mean, maybe when Machine joins you again, you guys can sing along to karaoke while FFD drives you.
Yeah, I have the 2 karaoke mics in the Model 3 now.
Jimmy.
Hey, how's it going? Long time. Question for the room. I've heard rumors that people are receiving the update on hardware 3 that don't have cabin cameras in their vehicle. How will this work? Because if it's using the vision to look at your eyes and they don't have it, does the neg go away, or are there going to be two separate versions?
They still have the nag, but it's less frequent. In the future, they may or may not make a cabin camera retrofit available. We'll have to see.
That's really interesting. So they get the steering nag, and it's just less frequent than 12.3. Is that how?
Yeah, they still have the nag, but they don't have
I
the
got
cabin camera. So they can go on their phone all they want and hold the wheel or, put some little weight on it. They've got a better system by far. I mean, the system's not even capable of seeing them.
Interesting.
I mean, you could get a 2017 Model S and put like a weight on the steering wheel or put some defeat device and have it run around as a robo-taxi. That would obviously be highly illegal and dangerous. So don't do that. But there's no security measure to actually make sure that you're sitting there and not using your phone.
Nicholas, you have to unmute yourself for us.
Oh, sorry. I'm driving right now using FSD 12.5. And the only problem I ever really see with it is if there's like a fork in the road. So like let's say the car has to veer to the right. But if the fork's really close together, it will sometimes go straight and have to reroute. So I feel like one thing to make this software perfect would just be the map data it's getting in.
When did you get the update?
Probably the day after your car got it. I have a Model 3 Highland Performance.
Yeah, a lot of people are mentioning bad map data as one of their top complaints.
And I've been using FSD since the early beta when you had to do a safety score with version 10, and you can see such a huge improvement now compared to back then.
Oh my God. The software was a total joke back then compared to what we have now. It sucked. It's funny that we ever used something like that. It would just slam on the brakes and jerk all over the place. Like, it's just incredible to see what the software is doing now.
Like right now, I'm just talking on the space, letting my car drive me back to work because I just dropped my grandma off at the dentist. You see it's beeping at me right now.
Yeah, so yesterday you guys had a conversation about like the used car market for Teslas and trying to sell new Teslas, and what is the definitive reason behind people are waiting for them to come down in price. The only thing I wanted to add, and I know I wasn't a speaker yesterday, but do you guys think software is the way to go to sell new Teslas, where we finally say, hey, listen, we're done with this hardware. That's it. And that would be the incentivization of a buyer to say, well, I'm going to buy the new Tesla because I want to get software updates for X amount of years, and the old one doesn't get it anymore. Do you guys think that is a good thing or a bad thing? Or do you think that's something Tesla's like looked at, just obsolete the car through software?
I mean, that's what everybody else does. But, you know, you may increase sales a little bit, but you piss people off. When people know that their product is going to get taken care of, I mean, We were driving my friend's 2018 Model 3 long range rear wheel drive, first Model 3, and a 2024 Model 3. They both drove the same. So 6-year difference, it still runs the latest software. That's why people love Tesla, right? Because they do that. So they're going to continue to do that. I mean, all cars that they make are going to be supported for 5 to 10 years after you buy it.
Going off that point of the used car market and that being a big difference, I just got my car used. And for me, obviously, all of the new features that are in the Model 3 Highland, all of the new features that are coming out in these vehicles, obviously it would be nice to get them, but at this point in time, it's not a necessity to have them. And like he just said, the 2018 models still run, and my model runs just as good, if not the exact same as all the new models. And again,
Thank
what
you.
cars are doing software updates?
Chase, your sound quality worsened since the first time you came. Did you change rooms or something? Are you in the bathroom? Are you on the toilet?
No, I'm not. Let me try to leave and come back.
Try the voice isolation mode. You just got a bit of an echo.
Yeah, you got a bit of echo and it's a little too loud. It's kind of crackling a little bit. Nicholas?
Well, I think one thing people are saying that, Tesla's sales are plateauing and all this stuff. But like going back, since I'm in Louisiana, I think we only have about 7,000 EVs even registered in this state. And we don't even have, you can buy a car here. You got to go out of state and buy it. And some other states are the same way. So I feel like Tesla really hasn't unlocked their full potential selling in, all the states. And so we don't even know what they're fully capable of yet selling, I feel like. And some people don't even realize that because they're not in a state like I am in.
What state are you in?
Louisiana.
So what's the difference between your state and others?
We cannot buy direct from manufacturer. There's a law that you can't do that. So in order for me to buy a Tesla, because I'm on my third Tesla now, and so I'm very familiar with this process, and I've referred about 3 or 4 other of my friends, and I had to explain the process. And the process is so confusing down here is that, like, they have to come to me and all this stuff. So you have to message someone on Facebook to get the car to get delivered to Jackson, Mississippi. And if you don't know that person, you have to pick it all the way up in Tennessee, which is 2 states away, or Pensacola, Florida. And for example, my 3 friends that purchased it, they wouldn't have even known about it. They didn't know from me. So like, that's just a market that Tesla really hasn't gotten in yet, because they can't even sell right to the consumer yet. And some other states are the same way too, like that.
Yeah, actually, most states are like that, surprisingly.
We have California, Louisiana, we have Florida, we have Europe, Alexander, we have Texas, Dallas, and Hustletown. Wow. Uzi, where are you?
New York, coast to coast.
New York. Yeah, okay. Coast to coast coverage right here. Cool. Hey Omar, there was some news that Tesla is now in Demo app. What's DIMO Demo app?
Well, it sounds like a scam to harvest your personal information for $15. Essentially, you give them access to your Tesla account. They can see your live location. They can even steal your car if they want. And they give you $15. So you can have some fun at McDonald's, get a Happy Meal. And then they know where you are all the time.
What do you mean steal your car?
I mean, they could literally ask Tesla servers, where is his car, unlock his car, and let me drive his car away.
That is wild. Wow. Wow. Did Tesla have to approve this?
Well, Tesla has an API, so you can give any app access to your Tesla account to, for example, do things. Now, hopefully, people are very smart. You don't want to grant this access to anybody except an app that you trust. But for example, let's say you wanted to integrate, you know, you had a fleet of Teslas, you want to integrate them with your systems, you could use these APIs for that. Or, apps like, for example, TeslaLab or TeslaScope, they use the API. The way we're able to track these software updates is that they're pulling data from all these cars and they're able to see a software update that comes in.
Can Tesla say, you know what, we have an API, but this app can't use?
Yes. So they were actually kind of doing an unofficial API for a long time. There weren't a lot of controls. Now you have to apply, which means somebody who's abusing it can be rejected. They can have their access revoked. And they're now going to start charging for API access. They haven't unveiled the plans yet. Right now, they have the free plan with a lower rate limit, but they're essentially going to be charging, let's say $250 per car or whatever, so that Tesla is actually making money from these apps that are using Tesla API integration, and that the access is more controlled. You're not having people abuse it. There's definitely some cool integrations. Like, for example, when you're an Uber driver, you can connect your Tesla account and they can actually see what the range is left on your Tesla, and they won't give you any trips that would require you to stop to charge. So it's handy information to be able to build in. I'm using it to build a database that gives us data about FSD drives in real time pulled from actual cars. So it's amazing. You can tell the car, hey, I want you to send me all this data. And you can say, every time this information changes, give me the location, the latitude, the longitude, and also give me the cruise control state. So it'll tell me when autopilot or FSD is turned on, when it's turned off, even when it comes to a stop at a stoplight, it'll say cruise state is standstill. So it's super useful information, and you can use it to kind of show the user, okay, here are all your drives. Here's the times where you turned FSD off. Was this an intervention? What happened? And make it easier to kind of get some visibility on how FSD is actually performing. Because I think if you started at like just measuring accurately what we're seeing here, people would be stunned. I've driven more than 1,000 miles since my last critical intervention.
Jimmy?
Yeah, I was going to say, I have a server at my house that I run on my own car. And then I also run the Tessie application. And the latest update is great because the location sharing information now tells you what third parties actually using your data, where before you were just blind. Like there was an icon, but it didn't tell you exactly who was using it. And then, like Omar said, you can actually restrict them to certain things. So in some apps, you can say, you can see this, but you can't see that. So it really starts to give the end user the control over what data is being shared. It's really, really nice.
And you know what I
Very
was
good information.
thinking as I was playing around with this is, wow, what a powerful tool for fleet owners to be able to have integrated into the car, live location, ability to monitor the charge, ability to have everything accessed through an API. It's a huge reason to honestly build an all Tesla fleet. Instead of having to instrument all these cars and use smartphones or ODB dongles or something that are not integrated into the car, you just use the system that's built into the car. It can't be taken off if someone steals the car. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, these bugs are getting worse and worse. It's crazy. Tokens.
Hey, good to see you all again. A question for Whole Mars. I don't know what your name is. If you can remind me, Whole Mars guy.
What's your
So
question?
I have this idea because we're monetizing all these functions that the Tesla potentially is making available. So you know when you take a flight, it shows you like how much your carbon footprint on that flight. So I wanted to kind of reverse engineer trading those carbon credits because there's a demand for them. If that's something you can probably integrate or build into one of these APIs, because I know like when I book a ticket, it shows me like how many miles and what the potential footprint that is. It's just a market that's looking for suppliers, and I think the fleet has the opportunity to trade these RECs, renewable energy credits is one, but just the driving displacement of the pollution is another market.
Okay, great. Anything else we're gonna talk about? Anything else? Tesla asked Canada to lower tariffs for Chinese-made EVs. I don't know how material this is. I mean, at the end of the day, Tesla can just ship cars from US if need be. So, any comments
Yeah,
on that?
Tesla should really build a North American factory now that these tariffs are in place. Oh, wait, we've got 2 already.
Yeah. Although, Chinese automakers are starting to sniff around Europe too now to build factories in Europe after massive tariffs from from Europe to Chinese automakers.
Yeah.
So interesting stuff. I mean, I'm generally like, what do you think about tariffs, generally speaking?
I don't think we should have tariffs. We should allow for free trade. Free trade is beneficial for the world. It doesn't make sense for a for a country to make everything itself, right? Sometimes there's a country that just has a fundamentally lower cost of production. For example, in Saudi Arabia, they're blessed with oil that's right below their feet, super easy to extract. You can extract it for $2 a barrel. Some oil production in the US is important for national security, but of course, if somebody just has oil that's cheaper and they can just pull it out really cheap and send it, that's an advantage. And then in some cases, you have even an opportunity cost advantage. So maybe you can produce some good cheaply, but you're so good at making AI chips, for example, that it makes more sense for you to focus on that and let some other country handle the other market that's less important. So I think it makes the economy less efficient to have tariffs. And generally, they're just trying to sort of insulate their domestic industry from competition. And competition is an incredible force in providing benefit to the consumer. I say, let the consumer buy cheap Chinese EVs. It's more important that we transition the world to sustainable energy, and it'll light a fire under the ass of those legacy automakers.
Okay. We have somebody requesting to speak with, I think, desktop bug issue. There you go. Vias, go ahead. Vias, there's a bug going on. You have to go ahead. If you mute yourself, it acts like you're unmuted. If you unmute yourself, it acts like you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. This is a question regarding the Tesla stock. What would be the catalyst in FSD to make one automaker announce that they're going to partner with Tesla and license FSD, which could potentially trigger a cascade of other OEMs make similar announcements? What might be the timeline on it, and what does it take for the FSD to reach that point?
Okay, thank you. Omar, any thoughts on FSD licensing and potential timeline?
Well, I think that there's a good chance that when it happens, it could happen a lot like NACS, where nobody wants to be the last company that doesn't have it. But in order for it to happen, we need to see a complete 180 in the way people view FSD and autonomous technology. We really need to see widespread recognition by consumers that this is something they don't want to buy a car without. So I'm not seeing that yet. You know, hopefully FSD 12.5 and 12.6 and hands-free start to change that. Hopefully Waymo becoming mainstream and more people taking their first driverless ride starts to change that. But you're not really seeing it hit them yet, I think. And then once that happens, everyone's going to say, okay, how do we get autonomy into our car? And what people are going to realize is these solutions look similar at the surface. Tesla has the only good solution for putting in a mass produced car. The only solution that can work anywhere without boundaries, that's low cost enough to integrate into a car, that is able to handle all the diversity of the real world, not just a few cities. And that works in the US, Canada, Europe, and China. So, you know, maybe it'll happen, maybe it'll never happen. We don't really know. But I think they've got a really good solution, and people are going to realize that as they look at their options, as they look at integrating all these different systems. There's nothing quite like what Tesla's offering. But you know, even if they announce something today, let's say Ford or Rivian announced today that they were going to integrate it, it's going to be 3 to 5 years before we actually see a product hit the street. I mean, how many automakers announced their NACS integration? Have you seen one EV with an NACS port hit the market? And that's just changing a piece of plastic. Okay. That's not even changing the entire way the car works. So, really, at the earliest, we're talking about 2027, 2029, maybe 2030 plus before you saw a car with licensed FSD actually on the roads.
I agree. Edward, and that's
And by the
Cyberbob.
way, the revenue from that wouldn't start likely until the cars were on the roads and people were buying subscriptions and generating revenue.
Yeah. Edward?
Yeah, to that point too, isn't the as far as the driver assistance packages that the other OEMs have, aren't they still under contracts? Those are pretty long-term contracts that they have with different companies. So until those contracts expire or get renewed or whatever, they can't really technically do anything without kind of buying them out of those contracts, right?
Well, I don't know. I don't really think they're under contract in that way that they can't adopt it at least on some vehicles. It's pretty interesting if you follow Mobileye's financials and you realize a lot of automakers are just abandoning them and they're looking for a different solution. They're moving to NVIDIA, they're moving to other solutions in some cases. But Mobileye had a huge buildup of inventory. They said, "Oh, our customers have a ton of inventory. They don't need to buy more product." And increasingly, some of these automakers are not putting Mobileye chips in their future products. So there's definitely a sense in the market that there's a need to move from your basic lane keeping assist, which has been pretty standard on modern cars for a while, to something that's more advanced and can offer FSD like features.
Hey, Omar, I'm reading through the API documentation. I just was wondering if FSD engagement, disengagement, is that all part of the API calls? I just want to make sure I'm on the right track here.
Yeah, there's a fleet telemetry API. Go to github.com/Tesla Motors/fleet-telemetry. And the fleet telemetry API allows you to configure a vehicle to connect directly to your server and upload telemetry in real time. And one of the fields they allow you to monitor, you can ask what fields you want to monitor. For example, I can say, give me the location, the odometer, and the cruise state. That's one of the properties, cruise state. And so this tells me where they are, how fast they were going, because, I'm looking at the distance they traveled from their odometer. And I'm also seeing how many miles they traveled. So, okay, cruise state on to cruise state off. I can measure the amount of miles traveled. And I can measure how many times it's turned on or off. So the cruise state property allows you to track it. Now, I'm not sure how high fidelity this is. Is it going to get every intervention, or, does it need to be turned off for like at least 10 seconds, for example? I haven't done a lot of testing around it, but you can ask it to give you a ton of fields. I mean, you can even tell it to give you how much is the accelerator and the brake being pushed and things like that. Basically, any stat on the car you can imagine. It's really pretty incredible. And they'll just pipe that up to you in real time for as many cars as you want. It's designed to be pretty high throughput.
Yeah, sounds good. We've got a kind of a basic integration with Tesla's. Being a fleet operator, you were talking about that, and absolutely, it's a powerful feature. We don't have to install a device into a vehicle; we automatically get the feeds out. But yeah, it's missing that cruise control type information. So I was going to have our team kind of look at it and see if we could pull that out independently. Just was looking for some shortcuts. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a little bit complicated, but they have a reference server implementation, and you can run that in a Docker image. They've got a Docker file you can build it on, and then you can just connect it to Kafka, and it'll just dump all the messages in Kafka, and then you can have, it read the data from there.
Cyber.
Yeah, thanks. I have a question about the rollout of 12.5 on hardware 3. I've noticed a pattern where the ones that are receiving the update thus far seem to be 12.3.6 cars rather than those that already have 12.4.3. If this is accurate, do you know why Tesla would roll it out that way versus the other way around?
Probably because the 12.4 people at least already have hands-free. So these are the people who haven't tried hands-free before, but everybody's going to get upgraded to the latest version. I find often when people are waiting for an update, especially an update that's as anticipated as this one, it might be the biggest FSD update ever. They're always hyper analyzing what's going on, but they work in mysterious ways, right? You don't choose the update chooses you when you're ready to accept it.
Oh my god. Every day is a joy in here. Samaki. Samaki, you may unmute yourself and go ahead. All right. No dice. Let's talk some NVIDIA. NVIDIA announced earnings. Did you listen to the earnings call, Omar?
No, I didn't actually.
Yeah, me neither. I guess we missed the most important earnings call of the century. Sounds like.
I was testing hardware 3 FSD on a 2018 Model 3, which is more important. But yeah, I probably should have listened. Sounds like it didn't go too well.
Yeah. And I was trying to keep this space going. It's kind of crazy how much attention this stock gets. Now down 5%. It was down about 7-8%, I think, after the results were announced. It bounced back all the way to zero almost this morning. And now it's at the low of the day, down 5.5%. $118 per share, just below $3 trillion market cap. Wow. I mean, every result they announce appears to be better than expected. So, who knows what's driving it? I think I'm thinking this stock is detached from fundamentals anyway. So, anybody can guess.
Yeah, does seem like the glory days are over a little bit. I think the delay of Blackwell has made investors cautious that we could see a little bit of a slowdown in growth. I think long term, they'll probably be okay, or at least medium term. Tesla's building this new data center with 100,000 H100s and H200s, and that's happening across the industry. So I do think maybe the worries about Blackwell could be a bit overblown, but we'll have to see. I mean, at the end of the day, you just can't grow like crazy forever. There is a limit to how much money is actually in the economy to buy GPUs.
Are you holding on to your shares?
Yep. You know, who performs the best in the entire brokerage? The dead people, because they just hold their shares. So if you just
Not
hold
buying it,
forever,
not buying the dip.
I mean, yeah, buying the dip, dollar cost averaging is good, but the key is really to hold long enough to see your thesis play out, right? So it's a big oversight the market has. The market has a huge short-term bias. So you can just always bet on a long-term trend that looks likely to play out, and it's probably not going to be fully priced in. And I think Nvidia is probably a company that's going to continue to grow long term. I think Tesla is definitely one of them. It requires a lot of patience, right? Ron Barron, if you remember when 5 years ago when we had this revaluation event for Tesla with the S&P 500 inclusion where the stock just shot up, and he went on CNBC and he said, for 4 years the stock has been flat, and it was really going down most of the time. There was all kinds of drama, and he said the price is now taking into effect everything that's happened. It's now being priced in. But very few investors have the patience to wait 4 years. They want to get rich quick. They lose interest after 4 months, let alone 4 years. So that's why very few people were holding it and why there was this huge move. Then when it starts going up, everybody bought it then. And then they go, oh, well, I've lost patience with this after 1 year or 2 years. I hate Elon. And they sell, the future most valuable company in the world before they can make back their investment in many cases. So patience is really important with an investor. I mean, this is one of the advantages that buy and hold investors have. There's no deadline. You can just kind of hold the equity and wait. And betting on long-term tech trends and buying and holding has been a great strategy for the last couple of decades. And with tech progress accelerating, I think the amount of economic value that is going to be created is beyond comprehension by modern standards.
Vias, go ahead.
So, following Omar's question, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So, what I do for the long-term investing is to use my 401k rather than have my 401k savings go into some crappy retirement fund. I have that money redirected to a self-service brokerage account
What's
where
your
I can
question?
buy stocks.
What's your question?
Just following on the point, just following the point that Omar's point about long-term investing. How many?
Okay. 10 words. Get your question. Starting with a question word. Yoda, how are you?
Uh, how am I? I'm a little bit battered this morning.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're holding both NVIDIA and SMCI, right?
Well, NVIDIA, I'm definitely holding. I'm probably gonna do a little bit of adding in the next hour or so. This amazing company delivered $30 billion in the quarter in revenue at 70% plus GM, and it's still not good enough. And then it kind of saved the whole stock market, but took a hit for itself. What else do we want from Nvidia, guys?
Maybe signing more boobs could help. Who knows? Uzi?
I'm also an Nvidia bull. I just bought another share. I think the parallel I want to draw is, I think the market takes Jensen's word quite seriously, and you compare that to Elon when he talks about humanoids or an optimist. The market doesn't seem to take him that seriously, or doesn't factor in exactly what he says. And I think it's fading for Jensen. The rhetoric is being more toned down. I didn't get to capture or listen to everything they call, but I could see, he's a little bit more cautious in his words. The big differentiation I want to draw is, NVIDIA is a designer, they're not the manufacturer of the hardware, whereas Tesla has that fully integrated production schedule. But for NVIDIA, though, they do have an annualized production, which is what keeps them, having a moat. So Blackwell and whatever's else in the future, that does matter for NVIDIA, as AMD and whoever at SMCI starts producing better and better chips.
Okay, so Uzi's buying the dip. Yoda, are you buying the dip in Nvidia?
I'm logging in right now, guys.
Wow. Okay. And Omar is holding strong. Interesting. Interesting. This is a fascinating stock. We should probably talk about it a little bit more. But yeah, I want to switch topics to an earlier topic, Omar. At the beginning of the space, we discussed quite a bit about robotaxis, how Tesla might go about robotaxis. Tesla has so many options, so many variables, how to price them, how to roll them out. Do you think, one question that we discussed was, do you think Tesla will start with its own fleet of robotaxis or push it out to customer cars first?
I think the first step will be to do it with their own fleet in a small scale. We're talking maybe 50 cars, 100 cars. I say open a shuttle at the factory for employees to get around the facility. Put them in the boring tunnels, places like that, of course. But then, go somewhere like Phoenix, Chandler, Arizona, for example, where Waymo started. Pretty simple area. And start launching a service there. Have a Tesla owned fleet to start out with. Once you've validated it and shown that it can work and done additional testing to make sure it works with older cars as well, then you can start opening it up to customers. And users can use the same app they were using before, but now they've got customer cars in addition to Tesla owned cars.
Yoda, do you think Tesla will start with its own fleet of robotaxis or push it out to customers?
Yeah, they're definitely gonna start with their own fleet, much like how they might release Optimus. First start with their factories.
Okay, great. Sounds like Yoda is busy. Hey, Omar, Uzi and Alexander said they can make Sunday work, maybe Sunday like noonish our time. I guess your time it would be morning, to do a video on Optimus production, sales, TAM forecast. Does that work for?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Sunday is a little busy for me, but we can coordinate and find a time that works.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Is there anything else we're going to talk about today? Looks like lithium prices are continuing to decline. Now back to 2019 prices. It may be a couple of quarters before it's reflected in Tesla's results, but
I don't want to backtrack too much, but there's also the $50 billion share buyback NVIDIA announced. Saw some meme accounts saying when buyback for Tesla. So I think that's another tailwind for NVIDIA.
it is kind of interesting that despite that massive announcement, the stock went down. I mean, $50 billion is a lot of money to buy back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think the buyback and Blackwell is overblown. They're sampling it right now like it's Costco. You know, customers are sampling Blackwell. Couple $1 billion in revenue in Q4. I think as soon as the news starts to shift that Blackwell is ramping, the stock will rebound. And yeah, I just added 21 shares.
I like.
Yeah, I wanted to ask the speaker board, do anyone know or think there will be a date when it will be too late for Tesla to finish FSD?
That's a very good question.
What does too late mean? I mean, if someone else had a solution that worked, then they could just use that solution and, continue from there. But there is no solution on the market that they could just integrate into their vehicles today. So, at the point that, let's say some company says, hey, here's a, chip for $50 and it can drive your car, then, and it really works perfectly, then okay, yeah, we don't need to do any of this. But right now, there's nobody who's really doing what they're doing.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think Tesla can take 10 more years and there will be no problem, no competition?
Well, they just have to be the best. So right now, the most advanced self-driving features you can buy in any car are a Tesla. So maybe somebody comes out with something and it's better. Maybe somebody comes out with something that's a true driverless car you can put in your garage. Well, then it might be too late if the market's there and, Tesla's not able to solve it. But as long as they're the best, there are going to be an increasing number of people who buy it looking for that. And honestly, I think it's going to be easier to convince people to adopt autonomy than to adopt an electric car.
Okay.
I just want to make sure my mic's good. Okay. Kind of echoing off of what Omar said, I think that Tesla is just so far ahead that the gap right now is a 4-year gap. They have a 4-year gap on FSD technology versus basically everyone else. So it's going to take a long, long time for these other companies to catch up. It's just not going to be some simple, quick change. And I think it's going to take less than 10 years before this system rolls out and it gets to more people. And then that's when the market's really, really going to change.
Yeah, and that's how. Yoda?
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that even if you figure out the technology, you still need the manufacturing plant to produce these at volume.
and then you still need the compute to do the training so that it gets better over time. And then you need to have the fleet large enough so that becomes the network effect to service. So even if Google were to figure out the technology, how are they going to build these cars in mass? And I think we're giving too much credit to the OEMs licensing, the likelihood of them licensing. If you look at who they are today, none of them are horse breeders or horse trainers, right? From the previous generation of transportation. And where are the Nokias and the Motorola's today? I think it's almost game over for them.
Yeah, for Yaman and Omar, leading into 1010, do you guys like what are your expectations for where Tesla is gonna be on 1010, and how far off do you think you guys are from market expectations?
What do you mean by where Tesla's? You mean the stock?
In terms of like it's going to be centered around the robo taxi reveal. How far do you think they're going to go? Do you think it's going to be a full on, this is the phase that we're going to roll it out in, and here's the app? Or do you think it's also going to include the vehicle? Like, just how much are you expecting them to reveal and have ready to start launching versus what you think the market's expecting?
Yeah, I think that probably the market is going to expect them to launch a robo-taxi service. And what they're actually going to get is a vehicle unveil. So they're going to show off the new Cybercab, maybe even the more affordable models. But it's pretty clear that this is a vehicle unveil. Elon said that it was delayed so that they could rework the front bumper area or the front of the vehicle. So this is really a vehicle unveil. I've heard a lot of people, because they said robo-taxi unveil, a lot of people seem confused about what kind of event this is. They said, oh, are they unveiling the robo-taxi network? Are they saying they're going to start a service? No, this is a new vehicle they've designed that doesn't have any steering wheel or pedals that they call the Cybercab. It's going to be built on the unbox process. It's rumored to have one row of seats rather than a front and a back row. And they're going to unveil it on 1010.
Edward.
I have to push back on that. Why would Elon send the pictures of the app and everything? They really pushed that app. Look at how easy the app's going to be, and then just ignore that whole concept. That doesn't make any sense.
So the event is going to have a demo, and the demo is probably going to include the app. But my base case expectation is that there's no app that launches at the event. This is really about showing off the vehicle and giving a demo of it.
I'm scared to call Yoda about this topic, but I will. Yoda.
Don't worry, don't worry. Omar, is there any technical roadblocks from Tesla being able to unleash the app, not for robotaxi, but for existing um, owners, so that they can, and some of them are currently Uber drivers, so that they can, instead of using Uber app, use Tesla's ride-hailing app to then start taking customers under, manual driving or supervised driving.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. We discussed that the other day.
Do you want to elaborate on that again for the people who run in the other?
Yeah, I think it would be great for them to start with supervised. They can launch globally right away. This would be a service that still used FSD to do all the driving. So it's working just like a robo-taxi, except that there happens to be a human sitting in the seat for safety reasons. The human can, of course, take over. If there's any issue, that issue can be studied, it can be fixed. And once the data shows that there is no need for the human, aka the human is not touching anything, then you can just start removing them. And you can do it in a phased way. You don't have to worry about geofences. If you're within the geofence, you can get a driverless. If you need to go outside, they can give you a human driven ride. And, there's already Uber drivers using the Uber network. Why not start launching the app, testing the app, refining the app unsupervised? I think it makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, that would be a huge mic drop announcement if Tesla said, oh, and by the way, we're launching a rideshare network today. So that would be awesome. But, um, I'm not expecting that necessarily. I'm not going to be surprised if it doesn't announce. That would be pretty huge. So maybe they'll talk about the rideshare app. Maybe they'll even talk about supervised, but I don't expect it to launch on that day. However, if it did, that would definitely cause a lot of excitement, not only among customers, but also probably in the market.
Why would you do it, say a year ago or 6 months ago? Why?
Because FSD sucked 6 months ago. Now it's actually good. I did an hour of rideshare driving in Los Angeles. You can go watch the video. Everybody's talking about their stuff. Oh, do you see Becky? And nobody noticed the car was driving itself. They were just worried about, oh, did you see baby reindeer? Yeah. Nobody noticed. That's how smooth it is. Okay. So it actually drives better than a human in the sense that the passenger is more likely to give it a 5-star rating. As a matter of fact, it'd be interesting to do like a blind control where you had two Uber driver accounts, one where the same guy drives manually and one where they have FSD drive. I bet FSD would get higher ratings because it just drives like a professional chauffeur and the riders are super comfortable with it. So now with 12.5, they can actually do this and it's not going to be a terrifying experience for the passengers. The focusing on FSD part. I don't think they're really interested in doing human driven rideshare, but a service that is actually FSD in all but the fact that a human is there legally is really what I'm envisioning here.
And you think it would be in a very specific geography, let's say San Francisco or Phoenix or Austin, Texas, and that's it? When you say
I mean, you could
globally,
roll it out nationwide. Why
I,
not?
right, but you said globally earlier, and also in the other space you said globally too. But it would have to be in the countries, even if they went nationwide, it would have to be in countries where FSD is allowed, obviously, right?
Right, of
Or just
course. I
US and
mean,
Canada.
yeah, you would still have the ability to use it and have human driven rides or autopilot assisted rides. But right now, of course, only the US and Canada have FSD supervised. Hopefully that changes before the end of the year. But rideshare itself is legal globally.
Okay. Alexander, did you have anything to
Yeah, I just had a stupid question. Omar, what chance do you think it is that on 10:10, Elon is going to stand on stage, pull out his phone, push a button, and then a robotaxi is going to roll in and then drive him over?
That's exactly what's going to happen. I give it 100% chance because Tesla already confirmed in the annual meeting that they were going to give a demo of the Cybercab at the event. So we're going to get to see a driverless Tesla roll onto stage for the first time or the parking lot or wherever they're doing it, which is obviously not impressive. It's just a closed environment. But it is going to be a big moment to see a Tesla without controls or without a driver for the first time. And before that happens, actually Smart Summon and Banish are going to launch. So everyone will have already seen their Tesla driving around driverlessly. And they'll probably send out a free trial of that as well.
Okay, while we have so many people in here, just a quick shout out for our sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Paymore. Are your electronics collecting dust or ready to upgrade? Visit Paymore and turn them into cash. Paymore buys, sells, trades, and recycles electronics because Paymore believes the best technology doesn't have to come at the cost of our planet or your wallet. Join the Paymore revolution. Visit one of the more than 100 Paymore stores near you or visit paymore.com. The link is at the top of our screens. This episode is also sponsored by Joa. TSLA Live is proudly sponsored by Joa, your go-to source for premium accessories. Don't miss out on the special offer for Space listeners. Use the coupon code TSLA Live at checkout for an exclusive discount. To elevate your drive, thank you, Joa, for supporting our Tesla community. Tesla Pill, go ahead.
Hey, FSD, once Robotaxi is released, will it follow speed limits or not?
No.
What do you mean?
It'll drive the correct speed.
Okay. So flow with the traffic. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We have a question in a different topic. What's the latest with the Delaware compensation case? Is the market waiting on something there?
Legal stuff moves very slowly. You know that scene in Zootopia with the slots at the DMV? Well, courts make that guy look fast, okay? So it takes a long time for these things to play out. And when there's news, you'll hear about it. Don't worry.
Did you have a follow?
Just some places in Canada, there's some really bad speed limits here and some outdated sort of construction zones, 30 in my area. And whenever I use FSD, it's super annoying because I have to keep adjusting the speed limit, even the auto speed limit. It doesn't make sense sometimes.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll figure it out somehow. Anything else? Anything else we're gonna talk about? Let's see. Yeah, we have a big question, but we can talk about things tomorrow too. We talked about NVIDIA. Oh, Omar, have you ever heard about Ford Flex Plan? Ever heard about that?
Ford Flex Plan?
Right. Apparently, I was told by one of my followers that Ford financing offers an option to pay very little at the beginning for 2-3 years, and then your payment goes up. I guess maybe like a 2-3 years 0% or subvented rate, and then it goes up after. So your payments go up after 2-3 years. So it's kind of like adjustable rate mortgage that resets after 5 years or so. Does that ring the bell at all? I've never heard of that before until someone brought it to my attention. Yes.
I mean, when you really look at these companies, you realize they're actually financing companies with an arm that makes cars attached so that they have financing products to sell. So they play a lot of games with financing to make you think you're getting a good deal and, still able to show that they're growing on paper. But I haven't heard of that. There's a lot of different deals and things that people have on the F&I side. So I'm not really sure why that would be attractive. Now you got
Well, here's
you got this.
here's what Google says. FlexBuy is a Ford-created exclusive payment structure focused on providing lower payments for the first 3 years Who's unmuted? First 3 years when compared with a standard retail contract. Flex buy is like traditional retail financing where the interest rate doesn't change and you own the vehicle. Interesting. I mean, this could have some implications for Ford's balance sheet. That's why I'm kind of asking about. This is something I'm going to look into, and we can talk about some more tomorrow.
I mean, from Ford's perspective, they just get the revenue, right? The financing company and how they're structuring that, that's like a separate arm. So whether you want to lump the payments in the beginning or the end, you can obviously come up with that if you think it's going to help you sell vehicles. But I mean, imagine you buy some crappy Ford F-150 or Ford Explorer. It's already out of date the moment it drives off the lot. It's already got obsolete technology. You drive it for 3 years, and now your old crappy 3-year-old car that was already out of date when you bought it, the car payment goes up. You know, that probably doesn't feel very good. So
Yeah, our sponsor, Thomas for Paymore, he replies and says, did you hear Ford and GM were applying to be banks to give loans to employees and dealers on top of customers they already provide loans for? Yeah, there's some action going on in legacy auto banking financing arms again. But I don't quite know the details to discuss it too much. So maybe I'll look into it over the weekend. We can discuss it next week. There's some breaking news. Finflexity says, Apple looks to invest in OpenAI at a more than $100 billion valuation, according to a Wall Street Journal article. Apple looks to invest in OpenAI at a more than $100 billion valuation. Exclusive. Apple in talks to join new OpenAI funding round. Finflexity also says, after the initial news of Apple and Microsoft coming together to invest in OpenAI, reports of NVIDIA joining this funding round have come out. Investing in unprofitable startups that generate revenue for you using your cash is trending. Thoughts?
yeah, I mean, if you've looked at OpenAI's financials, they need a lot of capital. And everyone knew they needed to raise very soon. This is at a little bit of a higher valuation. So I'm sure they're going to have no problem getting money from whoever, NVIDIA, Apple. I don't know if Apple would actually make an investment or NVIDIA would, but they'll have no problem getting the money from wherever they need for now. The question is, how long do investors have patience? Their business is growing, but it's generating heavy losses. And they're really going to be dependent on private equity and venture capital markets to keep the business alive. Also, $100 billion. This has got to be the most valuable nonprofit ever.
Yeah, seriously. We have 5 more minutes to go. 5 more minutes. Finflexity, thanks for linking that news. Go.
Yeah, we actually had more details for this. So apparently, in a memo to employees, the person from either of the companies has said that OpenAI will be using all of this money for computing power and to fund operating expenses. So, basically saying that they aren't able to fund the researchers as well. And, I think they're at a run rate of negative 13 billion every year. And I mean, a large funding round of 25 billion will only suffice them for maybe 1 year or 2 years max. And I don't think this will exceed 15 billion at most.
All right. Anything else? Going once, going twice. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for joining. Been a pleasure as every time. And I will talk to you all tomorrow. Same time, same place. Take care.